tall grass prairie, majority of it. Well, it used to be Iowa. And it had some densely wooded areas that were kind of spread throughout the state. Here you can see in 1832 to 1859, this is kind of basically the setup of Iowa. The yellow represents the tall grass prairie, and then the dark green and this kind of lighter blue kind of green represents kind of the forest in the state. But over 150 years of plowing, draining, and clear cutting, we now have miles and miles of corn and soybean. Makes kind of a drought environment. And now you can see all black, where all that prairie used to be, and majority of some of those woodlands is now turned into corn and soybeans, row crop. And with that, you with the loss of the habitat basis, you have lost these different species that have gone extinct. And this creates an issue for biodiversity because of the food web. With the food web, you have a flow of energy, basically, from bottom consumers up to the apex predators and those type of animals. So if you have an issue with the crickets, with their population, then you have an issue with the small mammals that feed on crickets, and then whenever their populations diminish, it transfers up and so on. And with that, you now have endangered species that are thought to be or threatened to be endangered species cropping up that need to be routinely monitored, such as the redback vole. And that study is mostly focusing right around that area in northern Iowa. So the last time that the redback vole was reported in this area, or actually caught, was by Rick Lampy in 1982. And the last time that was attempted was by Oric and Danielson in 2000, and they were unsuccessful for trapping for the redback vole. So exactly what kind of is a redback vole? Well, it's a rodent, so it shares a lot of same characteristics. It's slightly bigger than like a deer mouse, but one thing that really sets it apart is that glorious redback. They generally like mature forests, kind of older mature forests that are very open with not a lot of ground cover, and they feed on roots, nuts, berries, fungi, and insects depending on the time of year. So here you can see the range. It's quite vast, especially Canada. It kind of extends down into the U.S. and you got this little piece right here in Iowa, which is where I sampled. So my goal for my project was to see if they were there, see if they were present within Winnebago County. And then how I was going to do that was through utilizing trapping grids to test this. So I sampled two different locations, a private woodlot and then the Pilot Mountain State Park itself. First one was a private woodlot. I have 3 different grids here, and I use the same kind of setup for each one. I chose these areas within the woodlot, looking at specifically the types of areas that the redback voles might be inhabiting their habitat. They generally like wetter, kind of boggier type areas that are basically engulfed by the forest. Here again, you can see here's the whole Pilot Mountain State Park, and my 3 tracking sites. They're a little more spread out just because of the difference in size. And here I chose these sites because these are historic. Ordered to trap these same sites, and I was trying to see if I could test the same areas. So this is a sketch of my trapping grid. They were 4x5 grid. Set up 15 meters apart, and each little blue dot is a trap, Sherman box trap. And my trapping schedule overall, it was a market recapture. I did 5 days on here in the blue, and 5 days off here in the red. I ran 3 open trials, and then closed them for 5 days in between each. I did this in hopes of, if there was redback voles, to try and map out their movements, or just give a kind of estimate of their overall population. A little bit of discrepancy in the trap max as natural factors come in, such as flooding, squirrels taking the traps. Because I was trapping in December and March, I looked into other methods of trapping in the snow and winter to try and keep the small mammals alive during the extreme cold. And I looked into a chimney, this kind of setup, but I didn't have that kind of funding, so I got a 5-gallon bucket. And then placed my Sherman box trap underneath. It worked out pretty well because it overhung enough that it kept snow off of it, and it made a nice little cubby for it. Here you can see I use peanut butter with some granola in it, and then these are cotton 50-50 polyester cotton blend of blanket batting, and you put that in there for kind of nesting materials because up in northern Iowa it's rather cold. And then also I placed duct tape on the inside. It's kind of hard to see, but it is there. I placed duct tape on the inside of these metal traps to add somewhat of a little bit of a temperature buffer. And then along with that, because it's winter and it's so cold, I wanted to check the temperatures. So here's the data logger and a little canister there. And as you can see, here's a probe that collects the temperature. It's not touching anything, it's just collecting the ambient air temperature. And then I have one set up similarly in the trap. Outside over here, I added one during the pellet knob experiment because I ran later on in March to give me kind of control. So I could compare it between to see if the bucket was helping buffer any of the cold or not. So here's my results for trapping. No redback voles. I didn't catch any redback voles. Caught quite a few deer mice, especially in the private woodlots. One thing I caught. And then I got a little bit more diversity over here. One short-tailed shrew, 2 gray squirrels. You might say they had their hands caught in the cookie jar. Got their hands caught in my trap and tried them all over the place. So kind of a historical kind of map. This was actually, Miller caught this in 1953. This is actually one night, 21 redback voles. And then these were somewhere in the range of 1,000 trap nights that they were trapping and were able to get these results. And then interesting item that I noticed was the kind of shift in diversity. I didn't catch any of the same critters as Oric, and he didn't catch any of the ones that I did. So that was kind of an interesting shift, if nothing else. So here's the temperature data from the private woodlot. With this, you can kind of see the blue is temperature within my trap, and you can see it definitely stays a little bit, quite a bit warmer overall when compared to the bucket air temperature. Here I have the third probe inside the external trap, and you can see the bucket, or the traps stay together fairly well for the most part. But down here you can see where the green here, which is the external trap, does show that there's a difference when dealing with extreme temperatures. So the bucket did help with the extreme temperatures for the most part. So my conclusion that there are, according to my trapping results and my data, that it is possible the redback vole is locally extinct within this area. Loss of biodiversity, again, going back to that kind of shift or loss of biodiversity, could be because of all the farming and everything, taking away those prairies, it's pushing in other mammals that would normally have other niches to live in, they would then be pushed over into the forest and then displaced the redback vole and other, and it just continues that cycle of that. And another thing is my method. It's a decently cheap alternative. Bucket was very expensive, and then it does, if nothing else, it does create a pocket of snow within the snow, so that way you can find your bucket, you can retrieve it, and check it daily. And then it does offer some extreme temperature buffer, which whenever you're dealing with small mammals is quite a concern. So I just wanted to thank my field crew here and other contributors. Jim Benson was the owner of the private wood lot. Henson Hardware helped me with finding my buckets. They helped me out a lot. And then the Iowa DNR for allowing me to trap in the Pilot Knob State Park Reserve. And then this is the crew that helped me set up the Pilot Knob. Questions?
Do you know of anybody else that has found those Winnebago voles anywhere in Iowa recently, or you think they're just completely extirpated from Iowa?
I don't know of anyone else that has. Pilot Knob has been a very focused area that, as far as my literature has shown, a very focused area that they try to trap kind of consistently. Whenever, back in '53, he trapped generally a big area around Pilot Knob, and Pilot Knob was always noted. By the time it got down to Rick Lampy, he, as far as I understand, he trapped other areas around Pilot Knob, but he only found them in Pilot Knob. So it was kind of a dwindling population down in that last habitat that they were in.
Is Pilot Knob, the forested area, is that a virgin forest? Has it ever been clear cut, or, you know, I'm thinking about, this is a rodent, and so usually people don't think of rodents as being habitat specialists, but it's gone, or it may be gone. So what's the other connection with that?
It's been a state park for, I want to say it was a state park in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So I would assume that it's been there a long time. So I don't think it's ever been tilled or really destroyed and allowed to come back, kind of like a reclaimed prairie. So I would assume that that habitat was there throughout the whole time. So it's, in a sense, a version of the forest.
Familiar with animal trapping techniques and things like that. Why do you think you saw a shift in total in the species? Do you think it was your bait that you used in your traps, or do you think it is differences in populations, and one has some populations replace others? Or?
There was a little bit of question in my method. I used a Sherman box trap because it's an endangered species. I was live trapping. I was trying to minimize death at all costs. And with the older trapping methods, they used snap traps, so they were killing. So it wasn't nearly as a pressing issue. So there's a little bit of variance in that as far as the actual capturing of the small mammals. But as far as I know, well, I guess that was kind of a factor, but there's no way that the Iowa DNR would let me do my project if I was using snap trap, so I was kind of stuck. So it could be a factor, and I thought about other ways of trying to do it, but don't have the funding to try anything else.
Right, thank you very much. Good luck.